Thea Stilton. MOUSEFORD Academy. The Friendship Recipe. Headmaster in the Kitchen. One sunny afternoon, Octavius de Mussis, the headmaster of MOUSEFORD Academy, was taking a break to watch his favorite cooking show, Healthy Nibbles with Chef Crouton. It was a famous TV competition for amateur chefs, hosted by the one and only Chef Crouton, the most mousetastic cook around. That day, the headmaster learned the secret to baking a perfect soufflé: never open the oven door before the cooking time is over. Otherwise, the rising soufflé will deflate like a balloon. Holy cheese! The recipe of the day was cheddar soufflé, and the one Chef Crouton was baking looked fabulous. The headmaster couldn't help himself that night. After the students were all back in their rooms, he snuck into the academy's kitchen to bake a soufflé of his own. Possum patience is the secret to success, de Mussis hummed to himself, imitating Chef Crouton as he checked his soufflé through the oven door. The soufflé was rising and looking mousetastically delicious. Yum! Just then the headmaster's thoughts were interrupted by a loud sound. Ring-ning. Squeak! The ringing sound must have been the oven timer. It's ready, the headmaster cried. He rushed to open the oven door and the soufflé deflated. Rats! Ring-ning. The headmaster suddenly understood. The ringing wasn't coming from the oven, it was coming from his cell phone. Hello, he answered the call, frazzled. Hello, this is Chef Crouton, a familiar voice squeaked on the other end of the line. Am I speaking to Headmaster de Mussis? I apologize for calling so late. Thundering cattails. The headmaster couldn't believe his ears, he was squeaking with his favorite chef. Chef C. Crouton, the headmaster squeaked. Really? Yes, Chef Crouton went on. I'm calling because I received your letter. A month ago, the headmaster had written a long letter to Chef Crouton, inviting him to teach a class at MOUSEFORD Academy about preparing healthy, tasty food. He knew that the students would love it and they'd learn a lot, too. I would be delighted to teach the MOUSEFORD students everything I know. Chef Crouton said agreeably. Cheese and crackers, what fabulous luck! The chef wasn't going to waste a moment, he planned to arrive the very next day. After hanging up his phone, the headmaster quickly dumped his deflated soufflé in the garbage and headed home as fast as his paws would take him. He had a cheeseload of planning to do. A welcome guest or two. News spreads quickly at MOUSEFORD, and the next morning, Chef Crouton's arrival was all anyone could squeak about. Can you believe it? Nikki cried. A class taught by one of the most famous chefs in the world. I've learned a lot just from watching his TV show, Violet said. For example, you should always choose your ingredients according to what's in season. Colette chimed in, I learned there are ways to make your food not only healthy and delicious, but pink, too, like mixing diced strawberries into your oatmeal. If you paired it with salmon and some beet salad, you'd have your ultimate day of completely pink meals. Paulina joked. The Thea sisters all burst out laughing. Then each one of them started describing their favorite foods. Paulina liked fresh, colorful veggies paired with different tasty dips. Nikki loved high-energy foods like peanut butter and banana sandwiches on whole wheat bread, and Violet enjoyed pairing different dishes with the perfect teas. Pam, what's your favorite meal? Violet asked with a wink. Let me guess. Pizza for every course? When no one squeaked up, the Thea sisters all looked at one another, confused. Where was Pam? Colette thought for a minute. When I left our room, she was on the phone. What Pam's friends didn't know was that Pam had been squeaking with her brother Vince. He was planning to visit MOUSEFORD in a few days. Guess what? Pam exclaimed then, bursting into the room. I have mouserific news, a guest is coming. We already know all about it, Paulina replied, assuming her friend was talking about Chef Crouton. Pam's jaw dropped. How is that possible? I just found out a few minutes ago. Colette shrugged. While you were on the phone, we all read the announcement on the message board. What announcement? There was an announcement about her brother's visit? Pam ran to the message board and burst out laughing. She and her friends were talking about totally different visitors. Sorry, she announced. I guess 2 guests are arriving, Chef Crouton and my brother Vince. The lesson is served. That afternoon, a large crowd gathered in the Great Hall. Everybody was eager to find out exactly what Chef Crouton's class was going to be all about, everybody except Pam. I really don't understand why everyone's got their tails in a twist over a class about healthy eating, she said, sitting down next to her friends. Yuck! What's so gross about eating healthy foods? Nikki asked, raising an eyebrow. Pam rolled her eyes. We're talking about food with no taste, boring, she squeaked, pulling a buttered everything bagel from her backpack. How can you be so sure that healthy food doesn't taste good, too? Nikki asked her. I'll bet your bagel isn't any yummier than my granola and yogurt. Just then Chef Crouton himself interrupted their conversation. He entered the great hall pushing a cart that carried 2 mysterious plates of food. Hello, everybody, he said with a smile. I'm Chef Crouton, and I'm here to teach you how to prepare fun and delicious food that's also nutritious. I always say it should be yummy and good for your tummy. Now, I need a volunteer. Lots of paws went up, but a small group of mouselets caught Chef Crouton's attention: Colette, Violet, Nikki, and Paulina, who were secretly pointing to Pam as a volunteer. Intrigued, Chef Crouton called Pam up and showed her what was on the 2 mystery plates. I prepared some French fries and a baked sweet potato, he explained. Could you try them both and tell me which one is tastier? The French fries will win, Pam said with a shrug, but if you really want me to taste both dishes. As soon as she took a bite of the first French fry, Pam was sure she was right. It was fabulous. But when she tried the baked sweet potato, she was almost squeakless. It was delicious, marvelous, in fact. This baked sweet potato is unbeatable, she cried. While Pam kept munching on the potato, Chef Crouton turned to the other students and smiled. Well, it looks like your friend changed her mind, thanks to my delicious sweet potato baked with herbs and spices. Pam grinned, helping herself to another forkful. She had to admit, maybe Nikki was right, healthy food could be tasty, too. A very special class. Chef Crouton loved teaching things the way he had learned them himself. Paws on. As a young mouselet, he had traveled to every corner of the world to learn about different kinds of food. In Italy, he had learned how to make fresh pasta, in Norway, how to smoke sardines, in India, how to use spices. He hadn't ever gone to a traditional cooking school. Because of his experiences, he decided to take his students on food-related adventures of their own. In order to teach the students the importance of shopping locally for their food, Chef Crouton led the class on a trip to a honey farm on Whale Island. The honey was harvested right there by a beekeeper and his family, so it was fresh and delicious. To teach his students how to plan nutritious meals, he took them straight to MOUSEFORD's enormous pantry. There, he demonstrated how to create a meal with the right balance of fruits, vegetables, proteins, and carbohydrates. Finally, Chef Crouton took the class to the local farmer's market. He wanted his students to understand the importance of eating local, seasonal produce, which is fresher and often tastier because it doesn't have to travel as far before it's purchased. There, the chef demonstrated how to use all 5 senses when picking out fresh fruits and vegetables. Show me the fruit that's in season. A season for all fruit. Spring, kiwis, apricots, lemons, limes, cherries, peas, radishes, green beans. Summer, watermelons, melons, peaches, raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, cucumbers, eggplant, onions, peppers. Fall, pears, grapes, chestnuts, pomegranates, oranges, fennel, sweet potatoes, mushrooms, cabbages, beets, squashes, turnips. Winter, clementines, grapefruit, artichokes, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbages, leeks, pears. The Thea sisters' eating habits were getting better and better each day, thanks to the chef's suggestions and tips. Violet found out that using local honey instead of processed sugar made her tea taste even more delicious. Nikki learned that eating a banana before a run gave her more energy and improved her workouts. Colette discovered that choosing better ingredients even helped her beauty routine. Who knew that olive oil made such a fabulous lip balm? Paulina started adding nuts to her salads to make her meals more nutritious and filling. But the Thea sister who was getting the most out of the class was Pam. She wasn't giving up her favorite foods, but she was learning to keep an open mind and taste different things even if they weren't foods she would normally try. On the other paw, there was one mouse who thought that Chef Crouton's class was boring and useless, Ruby Flashyfur. Ruby complained during the long walk to the market. I can't take Chef Crouton and his babbling about nutrition anymore. I can't wait for this class to be over. But Ruby didn't know that Chef Crouton still had a cheeseload of surprises in store for the MOUSEFORD students. Chef Crouton's 10 rules for healthy eating. 1. Always eat fruits and vegetables. 2. Drink lots of water throughout the day. 3. Avoid sugary drinks and limit sugary foods. 4. Don't eat too many fatty or fried foods. 5. Choose in season, local produce. 6. Don't eat too much. 7. Start your day with a healthy, balanced breakfast, it will give you energy. 8. Chew slowly, you'll be able to enjoy the taste of your food more. 9. Get plenty of exercise. 10. Keep trying foods you think you don't like. You might change your mind. Remember, it should be yummy and good for your tummy. Guests and unexpected news. The days went by faster than a mouse on a cheese hunt, and soon it was time for Chef Crouton to leave MOUSEFORD Academy. While he was packing, he couldn't stop thinking about his students' enthusiasm. They had learned so much in just a few weeks. As he closed his last bag, he had a mouse-tastic idea. Without a moment to waste, he scurried to the headmaster's office. As soon as he walked in, he squeaked, "I'm positive that your students' enthusiasm for healthy eating would be inspiring to mouselets everywhere. I'd like them to be on my TV show." The headmaster scratched his snout, perplexed. "Well, I'm sure they would be thrilled, but I'm afraid they'd miss too many classes." "Don't worry about that," Chef Crouton interrupted. "The students won't come to the TV show will come to MOUSEFORD." Chef Crouton quickly explained his plan. He would hold a pause-on cooking class for a small group of students so only the ones truly interested in cooking would sign up. Those students would be featured in a special episode of Healthy Nibbles with Chef Crouton. The headmaster loved the idea of his favorite TV show being filmed at MOUSEFORD. Holy cheese, how could he say no? Smiling, Chef Crouton headed for the door. "You can make the announcement, and I'll go unpack." At that very moment, a mouselet with curly brown hair stepped off the ferry at Whale Island's port. He carried a big backpack on his shoulders, and he looked around curiously. "Vince!" Pam shouted, running to hug her brother. "I'm so excited to see you." "It's mouse-tastic to see you, too," Vince replied, wrapping Pam in a big hug. He had really missed his little sister. Even though They had an enormous family. Their happy home in New York wasn't the same without Pam. I can't wait to show you around MOUSEFORD. Pam squeaked, climbing into her car. I have so much to tell you, so many places to show you, and so many mouselets for you to meet. Pam wasn't joking. In fact, as soon as they arrived at the academy, she took Vince on a whirlwind tour of the place that she lovingly called her new home. Vince had a great time catching up with the Thea sisters, whom he had met once in New York. He also had a chance to meet some of his sister's other friends. Vince could see that Pam had not only found a new home at MOUSEFORD, but a new family, too. Once he'd met all of Pam's friends, Vince thought it would be a good time to paw over the gift he had brought Pam from New York. So, Pam, I have a little dash. But he hadn't finished his sentence when he was interrupted by an excited squeak. Hey, I have Marv Mouse news. Ron cried, running over to the Thea sisters. Chef Crouton has decided to stay at MOUSEFORD and teach an actual cooking class. You mean a pause-on class where we'll learn to cook his dishes? Nikki squeaked. Exactly. Ron said. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But we have to enroll fast. The class is limited to a small number of students. Holy cheese, that's fabumouse! Pam exclaimed. Let's go sign up. As everyone scurried away, Pam turned back to Vince. I'm sorry, were you about to say something before? Seeing how excited Pam was about the new class, Vince decided to let her go. He'd give her the gift later. He grinned. Nothing important, now go sign up for that class. A surprise announcement. Many students scrambled to sign up for Chef Crouton's class, but there was only space for 12. The chef planned to announce the names of the lucky students that afternoon in the cafeteria. What no one knew was that he'd also reveal that they would be participating in an episode of his TV show. Hello, everyone, the chef exclaimed through a bullhorn. I have an important announcement. The cafeteria fell silent. I have here a list of the students who will be in my cooking class. The mouselets all burst into applause as the chef read the names. The only one who wasn't celebrating was Ruby. Why in the name of cheese did you even think of signing up for a class like that? She squeaked to her friend Connie. The Ruby crew doesn't get our paws dirty cooking, we have someone do it for us. Connie was about to say that she had enjoyed Chef Crouton's class when a voice from the bullhorn rang out again. One more thing. Huh? Hello, everyone. Oh. Chef Crouton said with a smile. In addition to the cooking class, the selected students will be featured in a special episode of my TV show, to be filmed right here at MOUSEFORD. What? We're going to be on a TV show? Pam squeaked. Vince. Can you even believe it? Vince hugged his sister. Cheers echoed around the cafeteria. Cheese and crackers, everyone was so excited. Ruby blinked in disbelief. Her classmates were going to be on a famous TV show? Without her? Impossible! Ruby Flashy Fur was born to be in front of the camera. Let the competition begin. Give up my place in the class? Connie said to Ruby. Not for all the cheese on Mouse Island. After dinner, the two mouselets had gone back to their room. There, Ruby wasted no time asking her friend to step aside so Ruby could have her spot in the class instead. Hearing Connie's answer, Ruby stormed out of the room, squeakless. She was used to getting what she wanted. But Ruby came back a little while later with a huge smile on her snout. She had a plan. To get what she wanted from Connie. Ruby knew she would have to offer her friend something she desperately wanted in return. So Ruby had called her mother, Rebecca Flashyfur. Within minutes, Mrs. Flashyfur had managed to snag a pass to a sold-out rock festival. Did you ever get a ticket for that music festival over the summer? Ruby asked Connie. I tried, her friend replied with a sigh, but it's been sold out for ages. Oh, really? Ruby asked. Well, I just happened to get my paws on a pass. Can you believe it? As expected, Ruby's plan worked like a charm. The next morning, one of the students didn't show up to the first class. Wait, where's Connie? Paulina asked, looking around. I don't know, but it's strange that she's late, Violet replied. That's not like her. I know last night, she could hardly wait for class. Nikki added. Just then, Chef Crouton entered the room and cleared his throat. Good morning, class. As you know, my show is a cooking competition. Since there are so many of you, I thought we could divide up into teams. The first team was made up of Pam, Nikki, and Paulina. The second team was Craig, Ron, and Tanya, and the third was Ryder, Ellie, and Violet. Excuse me, Colette squeaked, waving a paw in the air. It looks like the fourth team should be Connie, Shin, and me, but Connie isn't here. Your teammate has dropped out, unfortunately, but she sent a friend to take her place, Chef Crouton replied. They heard paw steps in the hallway. And there was Ruby, wearing an apron. Ruby? Colette exclaimed, surprised. What are you doing here? I love cooking. Ruby replied, crossing her arms. Since when? Shin asked. Since forever. Ruby squeaked. My signature dish is the lentil, meringue. You know, the one that's marinated, steamed in the oven. Shin and Colette looked at each other, worried to the tips of their whiskers. Ruby knew nothing about cooking and now she was on their team. Construction time. Chef Crouton's cooking competition involved 4 rounds. The team that won each round would earn a point, and the team with the most points at the end of all 4 rounds would win the competition. The cooking was going to take place in the fully equipped TV studio that the chef and his team were setting up at MOUSEFORD. But squeak, building a TV set was no easy task. Whale Island was suddenly taken over by technicians and stagehands working day and night. The set of healthy nibbles with Chef Crouton, MOUSEFORD Special, was being built inside a large hall at MOUSEFORD. It's a work in progress. Nice job. Thea's sisters jumped in snout first to help out. Pam offered to escort the set decorator around the island, and Vince came along, too. She was excited to share this fun, unusual experience with her big brother. Even though he was having a good time, Vince couldn't help feeling like Pam was awfully busy and distracted. Between the excitement of the show, her regular schoolwork, and learning paws-on cooking skills with Chef Crouton to get ready for the competition, she was always running off to do something. Rats! This is so cool! Looking for a candle. On the air. Finally, the big day arrived. The show was going on the air. The Thea sisters and their teammates walked into the TV studio, which was glowing with bright stage lights. Wow! Violet exclaimed. I can't believe they put together a TV studio complete with real kitchens in such a short time. I know, Paulina agreed, looking around in awe. Just think, pretty soon, we'll get to cook right here under these lights. I hope we can remember everything Chef Crouton has been teaching us, Craig squeaked nervously. I don't want to look like a cheese brain on TV. At that moment, a young mouse approached, carrying a BD in his paws. Hello, everyone, he squeaked. My name is Tom, and I'm going to help direct you during filming. These are for you. He handed out colorful aprons. These are for you. Appearance is everything. Oops, is there an extra? Tom asked, holding one last apron after all the students had put theirs on. No, that one is for Ruby, Colette explained. She'll be here as soon as she's done. With hair and makeup. Colette rolled her eyes and pointed to where Ruby was busy primping like the star of the show. Once Ruby was finally finished, the whole group followed Tom to their places on the set. How mouserifically exciting! The lights were blinding, and the students' paws were shaking. Pam was the most nervous of all. She couldn't help wondering if she would really be able to prepare healthy dishes. Tweet! An unmistakable whistle distracted Pam. It was Vince. He sat in the audience, waving and nodding in encouragement. A grin stretched across Pam's snout as the director announced, "Everybody ready? 3, 2, 1, on the air." The audience burst into a round of applause as Chef Crouton stepped onto the set. He greeted everyone, explained how the competition would work, and then introduced the teams. Backstage, Headmaster de Mousses was getting ready to go on. Chef Crouton had insisted that the headmaster announce the first cooking round. "Good morning, Chef Crouton, and good morning to you, home viewers," de Mousses repeated over and over again under his breath. The poor headmaster's whiskers were wobbling with nerves. Good dash. Just then, he heard Chef Crouton call his name. And now let's welcome MOUSEFORD Academy's headmaster, Octavius de Mousses. Clap! 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 Once he stepped in front of the cameras, Headmaster de Mousses was even more nervous than before. Squeak! Good morning, home chef, and good morning, audience Crouton. Chef Crouton grinned and winked at the cameras. The headmaster is mouse-tastically funny, isn't he? But now let's get this competition started with the first round, grocery shopping. To the market, everyone. For the first round of the competition, Chef Crouton explained that the teams would each have 30 minutes to choose a dessert recipe and buy the best available ingredients. The teams had to leave the TV studio and follow the chef to Whale Island's market. As soon as they set paw outside, Ruby walked right over to a bright red van parked nearby. As she was about to climb in, Chef Crouton called after her. "Miss Flashy Fur, where do you think you're going? That van is for the film crew. We're not going to walk all the way to the market, are we?" Ruby asked, eyes wide. "Of course not, we'll ride bikes." The chef replied, waving as the van's driver pulled away. Behind the van, the contestants spotted 4 brightly colored, 3-seater which they bikes, one for each team. Rode all the way to the market. The chef had a single-seater bike of his own to ride along with them. "Come on, mouselets!" Chef Crouton exclaimed as he climbed off his bicycle. 30 minutes will go by quickly. You'll need to decide which dessert you want to make, then buy the necessary ingredients as quick as a mouse. Chefs, on your marks. Get set. Go! Pamela, Nikki, and Paulina, the orange team, and Craig, Ron, and Tanya, the green team, chose their recipes quickly and confidently ran to the market stalls. On the other paw, Violet, Ryder, and Ellie, the yellow team, and Colette, Shin, and Ruby, the blue team, took a few more minutes to decide. How about a yogurt cake? Ryder suggested to his teammates. Ellie thought about it for a minute. That's a good idea, but let's pick something that would use more local ingredients. Holy cheese! Violet exclaimed, waving a paw at the stall run by the beekeeper they had met on their field trip. Follow me, I have an idea. Meanwhile, the blue team was still discussing different recipes. We could bake something using puff pastry, Colette suggested. Ooh, yum. Maybe we could fill it with seasonal fruit. Apricots? Figs? Shin asked. Fabulous idea. Colette cheered. Let's make fig strudels with apricot jam. What do you say, Ruby? Ruby had been thinking about something else entirely, but she pretended to be paying attention. Oh, yes, marvelous idea, let's bake a dessert. Ruby was so busy thinking of ways to make sure the opposing teams would lose, she wasn't helping her team win. Okay, Colette went on, watching Ruby carefully, we need to get the ingredients to make puff pastry, plus some good apricot jam and sweet figs. Just then, out of the corner of her eye, Ruby spotted the green team pausing at a nearby fruit stall. I'll get the figs, she squeaked. Without thinking twice, she scurried toward her competitors. The best shoppers. Sneaky Ruby carried out her underpod plan while Colette and Shin were busy looking for the best strudel ingredients. First, she made sure she wasn't being filmed. Then she moved closer to the green team, quietly took a bag of peaches from Ron's shopping basket, and tossed it in the garbage. Okay, chefs. Chef Crouton called. Time is almost up. Colette glanced at Shin, worried. We have most of the ingredients, but where is Ruby? She's still at the fruit stall. Shin replied, pointing. Ruby, get your tail in gear. Snapping to attention, Ruby glanced at a bin of figs and pulled one out with her paw. Ugh, these are so dirty. The mouse behind the stall stared at her. Had this mouselet lost her cheese? Of course they were just picked. You just have to rinse them off. Yuck! Ruby replied. You know what? I'll get these instead. They look cleaner. With that, she grabbed a package of dried figs and caught up with her team just in the nick of time. The contestants headed back to the TV studio. They were all eager to hear Chef Crouton's feedback on their shopping trip. Welcome back, the chef said. Now, each team can tell me which recipes you picked and show me your groceries. The orange team went first. We decided to make a lemon tart, Nikki explained, so we bought the ingredients for the crust, plus lots of fresh lemons. Very good, Chef Crouton said, smiling. What about you, green team? What did you choose to make? Stuffed peaches. Ron proudly replied. Oh! Tanya squeaked as she and Craig placed their groceries on the counter. We have an enormous problem, the peaches aren't here. Where are the peaches? The members of the green team were sure that they had bought the peaches, but Chef Crouton explained that only the groceries that made it back to the studio would count. You'll make it up in the next round, he said. Seeing that her plan was working, Ruby smiled. When Colette began telling the chef about their dessert, Ruby could already taste their victory. Fig and apricot strudel? Chef Crouton said. Marvelous. But it's too bad you picked dried figs, the chef went on, inspecting their ingredients. Right now, the markets are full of fresh figs. Those are much richer in vitamins. Annoyed, Ruby tried to downplay her mistake by pointing to the yellow team. But they bought dried fruit, too. Violet, Ellie, and Ryder had bought eggs, butter, flour, honey, sugar, milk, hazelnuts, chocolate, vanilla bean, and dried strawberries. Ryder explained that they would use those ingredients to make crepes with homemade hazelnut chocolate filling. The dried strawberries were a garnish, since fresh strawberries weren't in season. Mouse-tastic choice. Chef Crouton declared with a grin. Especially because you thought to make the hazelnut chocolate filling yourself, instead of buying one ready-made. The first round winner is the yellow team. Yummy crepes. Crepes ingredients: 2 large eggs, 1 cup flour, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, a sprinkle of salt, 1¼ cups milk, 2 tbs melted butter, plus more to grease the pan. Filling ingredients: 6 tbs dark chocolate, 6 tbs finely chopped hazelnuts, 1 teaspoon sugar, 4 tbs milk, dried strawberries, or fresh, if they're in season. To prepare the crepes, find an adult to be assistant baker. Then beat the eggs together in a small bowl and set aside. Sift flour into a larger bowl, then mix in vanilla extract and salt. Add milk, 8 eggs, and melted butter. Mix well and let sit for 30 minutes. Warm up a non-stick frying pan and grease it with butter, then pour in a scoop of batter and spread it evenly across the pan. Cook for about a minute on each side until it's a nice golden color. Remove the crepe from the pan and put it on a plate to cool. For the filling, melt the chocolate in a pan. Add the chopped hazelnuts, sugar, and milk. Stir well, then refrigerate for half an hour. Spread the filling on each crepe and fold in half and then in half again. Garnish with strawberries. Yum! Anything to win. Colette squeaked with her teammates during a break in the show. Let's not get discouraged, she said. The competition just started, we'll win the next round. Sure as squeaking, we'll do our best. Shin chimed in. Ruby nodded. She was sure they would win, for reasons her teammates didn't even know about. In fact, Ruby had 3 reasons: Alicia, Connie, and Zoe. Ruby had sent her friends to snoop around the studio and find out about the next challenge before anybody else. It was a truly underpod move. Alicia investigated by hiding behind a clothing rack. She hoped she'd overhear Chef Crouton telling the costume designer about the next round. Unfortunately, her hiding place wasn't very good. She was found in minutes. Rats! Miss, what are you doing here? Connie couldn't get her paws on any useful information either. She tried chatting with Tom, the director of the show, hoping he would slip and mention something about the next round. But while they were talking, Connie's phone rang. She answered and absent-mindedly wandered away, leaving poor Tom confused. Thankfully, Ruby knew she could count on Zoe, who had the best plan. She brought Chef Crouton a cold drink, compliments of Headmaster de Mousses. While she was delivering the drink, she was able to eavesdrop on a very interesting conversation between Chef Crouton and his assistant. As soon as she left, Zoe pulled out her cell phone. Ruby? I have some information for you. Here you go, Chef. Peanut butter boost. Zoe found out that each team would receive a basket full of food in the next round of the competition. They would have to choose the best things to eat as a snack before exercising. Ruby was determined to use her secret information to ensure that the yellow team wouldn't score another point and widen their lead. Before the rest of the mouselets entered the studio, she snuck to the back table where the 4 baskets were set up. In the yellow team's basket, Ruby swapped the labels of some healthier foods with those that weren't as healthy. Mayonnaise swapped with yogurt and light cream cheese swapped with marshmallow fluff. Now the yellow team will lose for sure, she whispered. And she was right. Once the round started, Ryder declared, my mother's personal trainer told me to eat crackers with cream cheese before working out. Let's add this light cream cheese to some whole wheat crackers. At the end of the round, Chef Crouton tasted the yellow team's snack and exclaimed, holy cheese. This tastes delicious, but marshmallow fluff isn't a very healthy choice. The teammates looked at one another, baffled. Marshmallow fluff? They had grabbed the wrong jar. But Ruby's plan hadn't worked out entirely in her favor. The fruit salad her team prepared was too sugary, without enough protein to offset the sweetness. The snacks still in the running were the orange team's banana peanut butter chocolate shake and the green team's honey granola yogurt. Chef Crouton scratched his snout and thought long and hard before making his super shake. Ingredients: 1 banana, 1½ cups milk, 2 tbs peanut butter, 2 tbs dark cocoa. Slice the banana and ask an adult to put it in a blender with milk, peanut butter, and cocoa. Blend together and pour in a glass. Yum Fabumouse! Decision. We have 2 excellent snacks here, but I choose the shake. The peanut butter gives it an extra protein boost. While Nikki, Paulina, and Pam were happily celebrating, Vince ran up to hug his sister. You were the one who thought to add peanut butter, weren't you? He asked. You bet your whiskers. Pam grinned. I knew we needed some extra protein and flavor. Taste and recreate. The yellow team had assumed the jars in their basket had been swapped by mistake, but Colette couldn't help feeling uneasy. Ruby's sly smiles seemed suspicious. Colette decided to keep a close eye on her teammate during the next round. This round, Chef Crouton explained later that afternoon, is called Taste and Recreate. You'll taste my famous super creamy soup. Then you'll have to figure out which ingredients I used and try to prepare it yourself. The soup was truly fabulous, but guessing the ingredients was not going to be easy cheesy. I think there's some onion, Shin said to his teammates. Colette nodded, not taking her eyes off Ruby. Chef Crouton had told the teams that the soup's yellowish color didn't come from saffron, but Ruby was still pawing through the spices. A moment later, Colette saw her hide a jar of saffron in her and walk slowly over to the orange team's workspace. Colette was so shocked she could hardly squeak. Ruby was going to add the wrong ingredient to the orange team's pot. Hey, Ruby! Colette called out. What's in your paw? Ruby's snout turned red. Nothing. Why? Colette gave her teammate a sweet smile. I just thought I saw you grab something. Can you come over here and help me with this? Ruby sighed and slipped the saffron jar back onto the spice rack, mumbling under her breath, Why don't you keep your snout out of other mice's business? Colette pretended not to hear. She was glad she'd been able to stop her sneaky teammate from cheating. At the end of the round, Chef Crouton was surprised to learn that all 4 of the teams had figured out the secret to the soup's yellowish-colored pumpkin. The green team won the round, though, since they were the only ones to guess the second main ingredient in the soup, shrimp. But no one had time to cheer for the winning team. Instead, everyone was busy looking at Shin, who suddenly was covered in strange red spots. What was wrong with Shin? An unexpected reaction. A short while later, the mystery had been solved. Apparently, Shin was allergic to shrimp. Did Shin know about his allergy? Pam asked Colette, who was explaining what had happened to the Thea sisters during a break before the 4th round. No, he didn't, Colette replied, shaking her head sadly. Luckily, the doctor said he'll be better soon, but he can't cook anymore today. Don't worry, Vince said, trying to make her feel better. You and Ruby are still in the running. Colette sighed. To be honest, I think Ruby is too busy sabotaging the other teams to be very helpful. Vince and the Thea sisters listened as Colette filled them in on Ruby's sneaky behavior. You have to say something. Vince squeaked in disbelief. Nikki nodded firmly. Yes, you need to make her understand this won't only harm your team, it will ruin everyone's fun. Colette knew her friends were right, so she marched up to Ruby. Do you realize that if you had worked with me and Shin instead of trying so hard to ruin the other team's chances, maybe we could have won? Ruby scoffed and stuck her snout in the air. Cheese niblets, what a stubborn mouselet. The fourth and final round of the competition required the teams to each prepare a dish of their choice that was delicious, healthy, beautiful, and fun. As soon as Chef Crouton told them to get started, Ruby quietly squeaked to Colette, "I have an idea." Holy cheese, maybe she had come around after all. The students really let their imaginations run wild this time. Nikki, Pam, and Paulina put mozzarella and tomatoes together to look like toadstools and stood them on a bed of scary spider. Ingredients: 1 large green zucchini, salad dressing of your choice, 1 grape tomato, 1 yellow pepper. Have an adult help you cut the zucchini in half and roast it in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 10 to 15 minutes until it starts to brown. On a round plate, use the salad dressing to draw a spider web. When the zucchini is done, place 1/2 in the center of the plate with a grape tomato on one end, creating the body and the head of the spider. Then cut 8 thin slices of yellow pepper and lay 4 on each side of the zucchini to make legs. Enjoy! Fresh basil. Violet, Ellie, and Ryder made a spinach and radish quiche in the shape of a face. Craig, Ron, and Tanya made a scary-looking spider out of zucchini, yellow pepper slices, and grape tomatoes. All of the teams did a fabulous job, but Chef Crouton was especially impressed by what Colette and Ruby came up with. The 2 mouselets had prepared a checkerboard using pureed carrots and pureed zucchini. They had even made checkers out of carrot and zucchini slices. Sure as squeaking, there's plenty of imagination here at MOUSEFORD. Chef Crouton exclaimed. However, Colette and Ruby have come up with a marvelously creative dish that makes you want to eat and play. They are the winners of this round. A difficult decision. By the end of the final round, all 4 teams were tied, with 1 point apiece. Chef Crouton decided to take a break from filming the show so he could think over the situation. As soon as Pam heard, she ran to Vince. "We're taking a break from the competition, how about renting some scooters and riding around the island?" Vince squeaked with joy. He was thrilled to spend some time with his sister. She'd been so busy with the show they hadn't been able to go on any adventures together. But when Vince arrived at the dorm to meet Pam, helmet in paw, Colette opened the door with a paw to her lips. Pam just fell asleep, she was exhausted. Walking back to his room alone, Vince couldn't help thinking that maybe he had picked the wrong time to visit his sister. But Pam was so busy at MOUSEFORD. Would there ever be a good time? So Vince decided to change his flight and head back to New York early the next morning. He didn't want to get in Pam's way, after all. But when he went to his sister's room to say goodbye, nobody was there. "Are you looking for Pam?" someone asked from behind him. It was Shin, all better now. Who added, Chef Crouton called her and all the other competitors back to the studio. "I'm heading there now, too." Vince didn't want to give Pam anything else to worry about, so he decided to just leave a goodbye note outside of her room, along with the gift he hadn't had a chance to give her. Crusty cat litter, he wished his sister weren't so busy. Team leaders in the spotlight. In the meantime, the cameras started rolling again on the set of Healthy Nibbles with Chef Crouton, MOUSEFORD special. Chef Crouton had come up with a plan, which he explained to the contestants. "Since you all have the same score, I've decided to hold a tiebreaker, where the team leaders will face OFF. Each team will choose a leader to represent it and prepare the best healthy dish he or she can come up with something yummy and good for your tummy." The green team announced that Craig would be their team leader. He was the only one to figure out that one of the secret soup ingredients was shrimp, Tanya explained. "Shin will be our team leader," Colette declared, ignoring Ruby's fiery look and turning to Shin instead. "You missed the last round because of your allergic reaction. It's only fair that you get a chance to show everyone what you can do." The yellow team elected Ellie as their team leader. She already had the perfect recipe in mind. Finally, it was time for the orange team to decide. Paulina and I choose you, Nikki told Pam. Me? But, are you sure? Pam asked, tugging nervously on her whiskers. Positively, Paulina replied. You're the only mouse here who took all of Chef Crouton's lessons and applied them to your own eating habits. Pam was a little worried. She wasn't really sure she would do such a fabulous job, and she didn't want to let her friends down. But Paulina's and Nikki's trusting smiles made her proud to represent the orange team. She suddenly realized she already had the most important recipe of all right in her paws, the friendship recipe. Thank you, friends. I'll do my best. And you know what? Already know what I'm going to make. Pam scanned the audience for Vince, all while thinking about the dish she was going to prepare. Wait, where's Vince? She asked. Maybe he doesn't know we're about to go back on the air? I have to find him. No, Pam, you need to stay here and focus on the competition, Nikki said firmly. We'll go find Vince Rodin's honor. Looking for Vince. Nikki and Paulina searched for Vince all over MOUSEFORD. They figured maybe he had gone for a walk to enjoy the sunshine. But there was no sign of him anywhere. Could he be in the cafeteria, eating breakfast? Paulina guessed. Or at the football field? Nikki suggested. Nikki had barely finished her sentence before she was interrupted by a familiar squeak. We've been looking for you. It was Colette. She and Violet had noticed Nikki and Paulina leaving the set and decided to follow them. They joined in the search for Vince, but he wasn't in the cafeteria or at the football field. Rats! Let's peek on the second floor of the dorm, Violet suggested. Maybe he went to look for Pam in her room. The four of them didn't find Vince, but they did find a clue outside of Colette and Pam's door. Look! A note and a package. Paulina squeaked. The others all came running. It's from Vince. Dear Pam, Nikki read. I decided to go back to New York earlier than planned. You're so busy, and I don't want to get in the way. I know the cooking competition is really important to you, and I wouldn't want to be a distraction. I hope I can visit again soon, when things aren't so fur-raisingly crazy. The mouselets looked at one another in surprise. They were all afraid Vince had misunderstood Pam's behavior. They knew Pam well, so they knew family meant everything to her. She would never want Vince to feel like he was getting in her way. We have to rush to the port and S+OP Vince. Violet cried. Let's get our tails in gear, Colette agreed. The morning ferry is about to leave. The four friends had to run as fast as their paws would take them, but when they reached the port they spotted Vince in the crowd of waiting passengers. Colette, Paulina, Violet, and Nikki all breathed a big sigh of relief. Phew! What are you all doing here? Vince asked, surprised. We came to stop you from making an enormous mistake. Nikki replied. The Thea sisters explained to him that family was positively the most important thing to Pam. She never missed an opportunity to talk about her large, warm family in New York. She was so excited to have you here. Violet squeaked. Please don't go. She'll be heartbroken when she realizes you were feeling left out. Plus, Colette added, holding out Vince's gift, you can't leave without giving this to her yourself, in the FUR. The special ingredient. Back on set, Chef Crouton walked between the cooking stations, watching the team leaders kneading, blending, and slicing. Cheese niblets, they had learned so much. Ellie was focused and determined. She was making a light lasagna using whole wheat pasta, homemade basil pesto, and fresh cheese. Shin had just put his watermelon sorbet in the freezer, and he was now cutting the rind to use as a dish. Craig was putting the final touches on his perfect sandwich. It was a towering stack of whole wheat bread, melted Swiss, lettuce, and grilled veggies. Puzzled, Chef Crouton walked over to the orange team station. Pam, where's your dish? I'm all done. Pam replied with a nervous smile. My dish is in the oven, it will be ready in just a few minutes. Pam had been completely focused while she prepared her dish, but now she couldn't stop wondering where Vince and her friends had gone. Pam was so preoccupied that she didn't even realize the round was over. Chef Crouton asked each team leader to describe his or her recipe. Pam snapped back to reality when the chef called on her. Pamela, tell us about your dish. Pam wished she could have waited for her brother to be there, but it was IMPAWSSIBLE. Her team was counting on her. With a heavy heart, she stepped over to the oven and pulled out her dream dish. As soon as she turned back toward the audience, however, she had a Marv Mouse surprise. Vince and the Thea sisters were suddenly sitting in the front row. An enormous smile lit up Pam's snout as she squeaked about her dish. My dream dish is pizza, not only because it's delicious, but mostly because every time I eat it, I feel like I'm at home in my family's pizzeria. It helps when I'm feeling homesick. So this is Pizza 13, a whole wheat vegetable pizza. Each slice features fresh mozzarella and a different topping, the favorites of each of the 13 mice in my family. The room filled with boisterous applause. After a moment, Chef Crouton declared, the team that wins the last round, and therefore the cooking competition, is the orange team. With Pizza 13, Pam prepared a healthy, tasty dish with an extra helping of the most special ingredient, love. A perfect moment. Thanks to Colette, Violet, Paulina, and Nikki, Vince had realized that he'd been wrong about Pam. But it was only when he heard Pam talk about her inspiration for Pizza 13 that he was positively sure nothing would ever replace their family in Pam's heart. Little sister, you were fabulous. Vince exclaimed, running to hug Pam with the Thea sisters right on his tail. Yes, Paulina agreed. You were mouse-tastic. And Vince brought a very special gift as your prize. Colette went on, winking at Vince. As she unwrapped the gift, Pam's eyes filled with tears. Wow! This is the picture we took last summer at the amusement park. She proudly showed the framed photo to her friends. My whole family was there. This is better than cheddar. Thank you so much, Vince. Holding the picture of her family. In her paws, surrounded by her brother and best friends, Pam felt like the luckiest mouse alive. She had a loving family and friends who always looked out for her. If that wasn't a recipe for happiness, Pam didn't know what was. Only one thing was missing. Hey, how about a slice of Pizza 13? Pam squeaked with a smile.